Andor Season 2 is over. I've put together a list of the most frequently asked questions I've seen over the past few weeks, similar to the videos I've been doing for all the Star Wars movies. Let's get started. What is Cyanar? Cyanar Fleet Systems was the company that created and manufactured the TIE Fighter line for the Empire. They operated on several planets throughout the galaxy, including Lothal. The StarWars.com databank says this planet is called 73, and that Cyanar Fleet Systems owned several numerically cataloged worlds. I still find it interesting that the title card calls the planet itself Cyanar, and Luan refers to it by the same name later in the series. Maybe the general public didn't know about the numerical designations and just referred to any Cyanar-controlled world by that name for simplicity's sake. What is the TIE prototype Cassian steals? It's not named in the series, but the StarWars.com episode guides confirm it's a TIE Avenger. That makes sense because the ship's exterior design matches the TIE Avenger from Star Wars Legends, which was first created for the TIE Fighter video game. That starfighter was designed to be more capable against Rebel starfighters, being faster, more heavily armed, and equipped with shields, which most TIE Fighter models didn't have. They had a top speed of 1,300 kilometers per hour, making them even faster than a TIE Interceptor. They were significantly more expensive than even the TIE Defender, so the high price tag coupled with the fact that the prototype was stolen might explain why it never went into mass production.
I was raised in an Imperial Kinderblock.
How old is Dedra? She claims she was raised in an Imperial Kinderblock from the age of 3. That led fans to question her age because if that were true, she could only be 18 years old at this point in the story. We don't know her exact age, but surely when she was 3, the Republic was still in charge. She was raised in a Republic Kinderblock until the Empire took over, but she is an Imperial through and through now. She's likely been trained to not even refer to the Republic, and we're talking about someone who unfortunately would have had a very rough childhood no matter who was in charge. Republic, Empire, it probably didn't matter much to young Dedra. She's most likely grateful to the Empire for giving her some sort of a future. Dedra isn't reciting her Wikipedia entry for Edie, she's having a conversation with a difficult person. Every word isn't going to be an absolute fact.
People wouldn't clear and he wanted to land.
What was the Tarkin Massacre? The Gorman bellhop Thela explains it pretty well, that Grand Moff Tarkin landed his ship in the plaza, crushing hundreds of peaceful protesters. But I wanted to dig a little deeper just to talk about its history within the Star Wars franchise. The Tarkin Massacre was the original Gorman Massacre from Star Wars Legends, first referenced back in the early 90s. It happened shortly after the end of the Clone Wars, and was one of the earliest signals to senators like Bale Orana and Mon Mothma that rebellion against the Empire was inevitable. I was delightfully surprised to see it discussed in Andor.
Have you ever seen a man die from Ryonium?
What is Ryonium? It was a starship fuel. Where coaxium was used as a fuel for hyperdrives, Ryonium was for standard sub-light speed engines. It was highly volatile in nature, making it dangerous to refine, transport, or steal. In The Mandalorian, we see ground transports falling under attack and exploding because of their Ryonium shipments. In Andor, we see Wilman Pack's difficulty stealing it from a refinery. We also see Saw Gerrera using it like a drug, which he refers to as his sister.
Because she's my sister, Rydo, and she loves me.
Who was Saw's real sister? Her name was Steela Gerrera, and her story can be seen in the 5th season of The Clone Wars. She and Saw grew up on Onderon, and when their planet fell under Separatist occupation, Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the clone Rex trained them in guerrilla warfare to help fight off the droid invaders. Steela became the leader of the Onderon resistance, but died defending her planet. She was Saw's moral compass, keeping her hot-headed brother more grounded, and he never recovered from her loss, becoming more and more dangerous and unhinged. How do we handle the changes to K2SO's backstory? The droid's origins were first told in a 2017 comic called Cassian and K2SO. In it, Cassian meets the KX droid on a mission to the planet Wakeko and reprograms K2 as part of his escape. The events of Andor are completely different, so is there a way to reconcile that? My favorite headcanon that I saw on Reddit was to suggest that the comic is now a cover story used by the Rebellion. General Draven tells Cassian his presence on Gorman and rescue of Mon Mothma will not be logged. If it's not on the record and they need a new story for how they got a hold of an Imperial droid, the comic can serve that purpose. It's similar to Cassian's homeworld being changed from Fest to Kenari in Season 1.
Empire!
Why don't we see Palpatine in the Senate? It's noted that the Emperor became somewhat of a recluse. His focus shifted away from attaining control of the galaxy into keeping it forever. He was more concerned with Project Necromancer and the quest for immortality, so he passed his political duties to underlings like Mas Amedda and other lesser bureaucrats. He made some early appearances in the Senate, like when he wanted to control the narrative surrounding the transition from clone troopers to stormtroopers, but by the time of the Gorman Massacre, he probably thought everything was under control and wasn't planning to make an appearance. Maybe he regretted that decision once Mon Mothma started talking.
The monster who will come for us all soon enough.
Did Andor retcon Star Wars Rebels? Nah. Rebels does show us an alternate version of her speech condemning Palpatine for the Gorman Massacre. The words are different, but the message is the same. I do think that's meant to be the same speech we see in Andor because an Imperial newscaster introduces the speech as treasonous words that shocked the Senate. No, she's not wearing her blue robes, but these are minor details. Let things be flexible. But if it really bugs you that things don't line up perfectly, you could argue that the Empire itself altered her words and appearance. Star Wars Rebels points out that the Emperor would alter his own appearance on the HoloNet to look less scary. So why couldn't the Empire do the same to Mothma to make her speech less volatile? It plays perfectly into her message about the death of truth.
She's making a speech.
What was Mon Mothma's second speech? Erskine and Draven both say Mon will be making another speech to be broadcast as far as they can. You can see that speech in the Star Wars Rebels episode Secret Cargo. After escaping the Senate, she is picked up by another ship with a Gold Squadron escort, which Draven mentions. They rendezvous with the Ghost, and with their help, they evade the Empire and reach Dantooine. There, Mon Mothma delivers a speech to all the individual Rebel cells of the galaxy, uniting them into an official Rebel alliance.
Stop rushing the news, make it stop.
When did Luthen meet Cleia? I think the timeline of those flashbacks is left intentionally vague so it could potentially be solidified in future stories. But the StarWars.com episode guide talks about how they built new Mud Trooper armor for the scene, so for now I'm going to assume Luthen was part of the early Empire. In his Season 1 monologue, he talks about being set on his path 15 years earlier, which would have been during the final year of the Clone Wars. Maybe that is when he started realizing how broken things were, but he didn't defect until sometime later, or he is simply rounding up when he says 15 years. As usual, dialogue in Star Wars shouldn't always be taken as concrete fact. What was CompForce? They were the military and tactical branch of the Imperial Security Bureau. It had two subdivisions of Observation and Assault. Observation served as loyalty spies among the Empire itself, hiding on Imperial starships and bases. In Andor, we saw the Assault Division in action. CompForce was first created way back in 1989 for the Star Wars role-playing game, specifically in the Imperial Sourcebook, which first illustrated their helmetless stormtrooper kind of look. What will Dedra Meero be building in prison on Narkina 2? The Death Star is days away from being finished, so I expect her team has shifted into constructing parts for Star Destroyers or TIE Fighters or pick literally anything within the Imperial war machine. They are constantly building new weapons. That said, I expect the Narkina prisons will return to building Death Star parts pretty fast after the Battle of Yavin, considering all that hard work is about to explode. Is Cleia Cassian's sister? No, I didn't really see anything in the episode to suggest that. Tony Gilroy has also commented on the fan theory and said that it was never something they even considered. I think that was simply fans looking for some sort of additional resolution to Cassian's missing sister.
Casa!
Okay, so what happened to Cassian's sister? Marva told us. She unfortunately died on Kenari. In an interview with Deadline, Tony Gilroy suggested at one point they considered diving into that storyline more, but he realized her absence was more powerful, that the lack of resolution was what drove Cassian in many ways. He's going back for people a lot throughout the series. He's not always successful, but he doesn't want to feel like he's abandoned any more of his family. I think it even drives him to join Jyn on the mission to Scarif. It's interesting that Baze even calls her little sister in Rogue One, and when she thanks Cassian for sticking around, he says, "Welcome home." After her journey from apathy to opposition against the Empire, she has come home to herself, just as Cassian tells Nia on Cyanar.
You can spare me the Uncle Harlo testimonials.
Who was Uncle Harlo? Nobody important. Fans have mostly turned him into a fun meme, as if his identity was going to be some big reveal, but for the handful of fans who are genuinely asking if we were meant to learn more about him, no, I never really got that vibe. He's just an overbearing family member Edie uses to lord over Cyril, and it's hilarious that he's got a criminal record with the ISB. Why was Bale Organa recast? It sounds like it was simply a scheduling issue with Jimmy Smits. If Bale Organa had been left out of this series, I know I would have been disappointed. He is foundational to the Rebel Alliance. Speaking with Screen Rant, Tony Gilroy said, Jimmy Smits just wasn't available. It didn't work out. He was doing his other show and we were under the gun and they couldn't work it out. It's a bummer, but it is what it is. Sometimes the stars don't all align for productions. That said, although I was initially surprised and disappointed Smits couldn't return, I thought Benjamin Bratt did a wonderful job. And those are the most frequently asked questions I've seen pop up over and over about Andor Season 2. If you like this style of video, check out this playlist covering the entire Skywalker saga and some of the live-action series. I'm making my way through all the biggest Star Wars stories, so make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel to watch future installments, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.